In our last session, we talked about mission and vision for our prayer mentoring process. And you've hung in there with me. This is our third session. And this time we're going to talk about the process overview for the goals of the mentoring experience. Everything we do, let's not forget what John Bunyan said. The truths I know best I have learned on my knees. Nothing I tell you, and you've probably done a ton of reading by now. I hope you've started on this manual. You started on the prayer, the heartbeat of the church. You've read through it. You should have had in your mentoring toolkit the prayer leaders manual, these videos. You've got a lot of stuff that you should have been reading through. But don't forget the truths that you learn best. You learn on your knees. Let's talk about the process overview so you'll understand what we're trying to do and what you're helping us lead. Mentoring groups that you lead will consist of 3 to 12 churches who meet together with you, the prayer leadership mentor. Now, this is not just the prayer leader, but we hope that that entire prayer leadership learning team will be at the table. And here's what the process kind of looks like. We go through a quarterly 3-month kind of cycle. Month 1, there will be a national vision call with me. We're asking all the churches in the Praying Church movement to participate in this call. At some point in that same month, within 30 days of that, you want a face-to-face meeting in mentoring groups. All the churches that you have the care of, that you are mentoring, you're leading that team, you want to get them in the same room for an evening while the call is fresh on their minds and hearts. The second month, what you want to do is the moment you have 6 churches rather, in your mentoring connections, you want to create a triad or a quad. Let's say you have 12 churches that you are mentoring. You can have 4 sets of triads or 3 quads. Break them up in a way that makes sense to you. In the second month, they're going to meet together, and you're going to meet perhaps with them until you identify a peer leader among them. This is so important because that peer leader among them is someone you're actually mentoring to become a potential leader of another mentoring group. Let's say your group explodes almost overnight. Who would you hand off the second group to? You need to be already thinking about people that you're mentoring that can mentor others. Month number 3, the mentor is going to now connect with your prayer leaders one-on-one. Sometime during this month, you're going to call that point person at that local church, and you're going to have a conversation with them. How's it going? How are you doing? You're going to pray with them. You're going to encourage them. You're going to give them an opportunity to say to you what they don't want to say at the larger meeting, what they don't want to say at the triad or quad meeting. You need to listen for what they might not tell you, that they're doing okay, that they're struggling with the process. Help them stay engaged in the process. At month 4, this same process begins again. You have a national call. You get all of your churches together. Month number 2, they meet in triads or quads. Month number 3, you connect with them on a personal basis. Now, at some point in this quarter, there are other things going on as well. For example, there may just be a call, a national or state call, for those of you who are mentors who are leading other groups. There also may be a desire for you to connect with your triad or quad leaders by phone or in person once a quarter. And then, of course, once a quarter, month one, we're doing this national vision call together. Here's what you're constantly looking at. Who do you want at the table? Local church prayer leadership teams, and pastors are invited as well. When monthly, for 1 hour on a recorded call that's archived, you want to get them online on this national coaching call that will assist with vision and resourcing the prayer leaders. What's the purpose? Education, inspiration, information, connection. During this one call, once a quarter, we'll talk about different aspects of the local church prayer ministry. We'll do a virtual seminar that'll be 15, 20 minutes. It may be with some expert in the area of prayer, some nationally known leader about some aspect of prayer ministry. We'll take time to share stories about prayer ministry, personal breakthroughs, news from across the nation and around the world. And then we'll point out fresh resources that you can use to enrich and aid that local church prayer leadership team, opportunities for them to participate in regional, national, even international prayer endeavors. And of course, it'll be a connection, a forum for them to connect with other prayer leaders, a platform to exchange information, and a sense of national teaming, not to mention the state and the local that happens with that prayer mentoring team. What would we cover on these national calls that happen once a quarter? We'll talk about the prayer meeting. We may talk about kicking off a prayer ministry in the local church. How do you select prayer leaders? Well, what does a developing prayer leadership learning team look like? What about intercessory prayer? What's happening in the area of youth or the global children's prayer movement? How do you nurture at-home prayer? How do you create a prayer room at home, at church? How do you give the gift of prayer to the community? Here's what the schedule is going to look like for these quarterly calls. There'll be a primary presentation. Everybody will be in mute mode. There'll be a story, a feature, an interview. There'll be special reports, prayer resources, special days of prayer that are coming up sometime in this next quarter. And then following this, you'll do your face-to-face mentoring group meeting with those local church leaders. You'll have fresh information and vision from that quarterly national call. And representatives of local church learning leadership teams are now going to be in the same room face to face. In the first few months, that leadership learning team, they're meeting monthly. They're watching videos. They're going through the process that's in this notebook. They're exploring, what does prayer ministry look like? So you'll have a lot to talk about, and chances are a number of your teens may be feeling overwhelmed at that point. So your goal will be to help everybody take a deep breath. If necessary, slow the pace down. And just make sure those teams are challenged but not overwhelmed. Each quarter, you as a mentor will have a new guide for discussion. In some cases, there'll be a recommended video or video greeting, a general time to frame the mentoring process. Here's what I would recommend when you meet with those local churches. A prayer time. And then opening remarks of your own choice. And then there'll be fresh material from my office to you. You'll be able to download this online. And it may be in the form of a video or a handout. You'll have a discussion guide to take you through the process. You'll want to have these people at tables in a fellowship hall. You may want to allow time for a local church prayer leadership team from a given church to be at the same table. Then you may want to break them up so that they're all at different tables, meeting with different people. Here's what you want to do in those group times. Number one, the past, looking back. This is show and tell time. Here's the good news, breakthrough stories. Have one church tell, in fact, make sure you plan for this. This is what we did. This is what happened. This is what worked. You're inspiring other churches, and you're getting churches now to begin to mentor other churches. That's the past, looking back. Then you want to transition to the present, looking hard. Where are you in your process? Do you think, are you ahead? Are you behind? Are you on schedule? Where do you need help? And then you want to spend some time doing mutual prayer and sharing. So you've looked at the past, you've looked at the present, now you want to look at the future, looking ahead. What are your plans for the next quarter? And this may be the most difficult part, is to help those prayer leaders have a plan for the next quarter, and not just loose prayer activities. They need to be moving forward in a systemic way to help grow the prayer ministry of their church. And of course, many of these things are going to occur in smaller groups, in the triads and the quads. You want to pray together, then you want to head home. Month 2. Month 2, the mentoring connections now take place in smaller groups, triads, quads. You may want to do this as the entire prayer team. You may want to do this simply as the prayer point person in that local church. And these will be 3 churches meeting together, 4 churches meeting together based on geography or some other reason. And that person that you choose to lead that threesome or foursome, remember, all the while, you are looking to add additional churches to the movement. And at some point, you'll need to multiply your mentoring group. We don't want mentoring groups to be larger than 10 to 12 churches. Once a quarter, these smaller configurations are going to meet together. And their meeting will be a follow-up of both the National Vision Call and the mentoring group meeting. They'll review the materials, maybe in more detail. They'll have time to discuss specific needs and plans to encourage one another. Here's the schedule. The group meets together, this small group. There's a point person. And you want them to pray together. This meeting, of course, is going to be more dynamic. There may be times that you say to them, next time we meet, bring your intercessory leader. Next time you meet to the next quarter triad meeting, bring your youth prayer leader, whatever you're focusing on. But this meeting is less about teaching and learning or even vision, and more about the struggles of how you move the process forward. Here's a sample thing that I might do. I'd begin at whatever time I began, 6:37, spend a few minutes in prayer. And then you want to review important items, suggestions that may come from the mentoring group leader to you as the triad leader. The specifics of this are like this. Where are you in your process? Again, this is show and tell, good news, bad news, breakthroughs, breakdowns. And you may choose to allow one of these stories to be shared at the larger group. The personal, how are you doing? Are you encouraged? Are you confused? Are you overwhelmed? Where do you need help? Mutual sharing and prayer. The leader might say, last month in the larger group, we shared about, can you talk more about what you're doing in this area? And you just want to one by one take time for each to share and encourage one another. I'm going to spend some time doing problem solving. What went wrong? Why do you think this happened? Who should be involved in the fix, the restoration of this problem? How do we move forward? What are our next steps? What is our plan? What's the sequence, the timeline, the calendar? This may seem like a repeat of the previous month, but the goal is detailed sharing, mutual support in the smaller group. Month 3. Now, if you are the mentor leader for the entire group, it's all about relationships. So once a month, this 3rd month, you're going to be asked to make a direct connection with the designated prayer leader of that participating church. By the way, you may have phantom churches that are assigned to your group that choose for whatever reason not to meet with your team that you're asked to follow up on. The nature of this connection that you're making is personal. It provides the opportunity for a bond to form between you, the mentor of the overall process of 12 or so churches, and that local church prayer leader, that point person. We want them to feel individual care. It allows you to get a sense of how each leader is progressing and hear not only the content of the conversation, but also the tone. In these conversations, you'll learn new things, things that will impact what you do in your quarterly meeting. By the way, you'll learn things that you are not to share beyond that personal conversation. It allows that local church prayer leader to have a bit of a confidant in you, the mentor, somebody who understands their goals and maybe even their frustrations. And out of these times, the mentor is able to help tailor the meetings to meet the needs. Chances are, if you got one person struggling with this, you got a number of people that are dealing with the same problem. It's all about relationships. Once a quarter, we'll do a mentors leadership call, and mentors across the nation or in a state will connect, and we'll learn from one another and how the process is working. We'll get feedback, and we'll make our adjustments on the fly as we learn how to help our churches become praying churches. And in these mentoring calls, we may be rehearsing anticipating upcoming quarterly face-to-face gathering. Give an opportunity for innovative adaptations from you on the field, and encouragement to know that we're listening to you. And we want to assist those prayer leaders, those pastors, and those budding prayer teams in that local area. The State Mentors Connect is an extension of the national call, maybe a separate connection, so that mentors across the state or region are asked to connect with the Church of God prayer leader from that state or the state mentoring coordinator at least once a quarter. This may be a face-to-face meeting. It may be a phone meeting. We've just gone through what may seem a very complex process overview. We're going to learn to do this together, and we're going to adapt. Our goal is to not leave churches alone. We want them to feel like there's somebody they can reach out to. And that means that we can't leave you as a mentoring coordinator alone. We need to get you connected at the state level and at the national level. Don't be overwhelmed. We'll let this develop naturally. We're going to learn how to do this together. Andrew Murray said, "Beware in your prayers, above all else, of limiting God, not only by unbelief, but by fancying that you know what He can do or what He will do. Expect unexpected things above all that we ask or think." Oswald Chambers said, "Never make the blunder of trying to forecast the way God is going to answer your prayer. Hey, we don't know where we're going. That may be the best news. We got a plan, but we're going to try to figure this out as we go. Because really, we're in a reformation of the church. We've had houses of preaching for almost 500 years, but we've not had houses of prayer for the nations. God is calling His church into a fresh reformation. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're doing, but we need to hang together and learn from one another. I want to learn from you. There are local church prayer leaders that they want to learn from you. We're going to do this together.